Hey everyone. So I wanted to do this video for a while. It is a comprehensive but general audience introduction to Sigtunnel and AI agents. And what I'm hoping to achieve in this video is to give you an overview of the Sigtunnel platform and how it can be used to run any workload, including AI related ones. I would describe Sigtunnel as an oversimplified version of either Airflow or Prefect, basically a platform capable of running asynchronous jobs. However, I made Sigtunnel to be cloud first, cost efficient, and also easy to onboard. So what I'll do next is to demonstrate how it works. So right here, I have the platform open in my browser. It's live right now. I'm going to go fetch my demo username and password. And I'm going to go fetch my MFA code as well. There we have it. We are in. So the first thing we're going to notice is on the top right corner, we have our user here, in this case, admin, and automatically Sigtunnel creates an account to this user, and an account ID more specifically. Within this account, we have a few resources. We have workspaces, workflows, and workflow schedules. So what is a workspace? A workspace is basically a way for Sigtunnel to connect to a specific AWS account. So it will be the bridge between Sigtunnel and your AWS account, and will empower Sigtunnel to do things on your behalf on your AWS account to simplify your day-to-day job. Besides that, within a workspace, we have multiple workflows. And a workflow, as the name suggests, is a step-by-step set of tasks, right? And we also can associate schedules to workflows. So I can basically say, hey, this set of tasks should be executed at 5 a.m. on a Monday or maybe 5 p.m. on a Tuesday. And we're going to explore all of those components there. Over here on the dashboard, we have a lot of interesting information. So we know how many workspaces we have in this account, how many workflows, how many workflow executions, and we can see live information about the account. And we may explore this later. But for now, let's come here to workspace and let's create a workspace. I'm going to create a workspace called demo here. And as you can see, automatically the platform pre-populated our account ID. The cloud provider, which is AWS, it's pretty much the only one supported right now by Sigtunnel. And also we are using US East 2, but we can use whatever AWS region fits our needs, right? So I'm going to call this workspace demo. And there's a set of instructions here on how to integrate your AWS account with Sigtunnel. Pretty much, we have a Terraform module that can be executed on the AWS account that creates all those resources. And more specifically, we're looking for this resource here, this IAM role. And we're going to copy here. And all those steps are very well described in the tutorial and pretty much like step-by-step how to do it. But we're going to just copy paste the value here. And there we go. We already have a workspace running. So Sigtunnel was able to communicate with our AWS account, verify that it's working, that it has the proper permissions, and now we have our first workspace. Next up, we want to create workflows. That's the interesting part, right? So let's create a workflow, and I'm going to call this workflow demo, and let's say demo workflow, and it's going to live inside the demo workspace. I can also specify for this workflow if I want to retain the logs or delete the logs of the workflow. Again, the workflow, it's a set of compute steps, right? And those compute steps produce logs. Besides that, we also have the timeout for our workflow. So again, we don't want the workflow to run indefinitely. We definitely want to have a cut-up time that we want to establish. In this case here, it's going to be 900 seconds, which is roughly 15 minutes. And here we have our workflow builder. It's a very simple interface where we can drag and drop tasks or parallel tasks. Task is pretty much a single task that we want to accomplish, and a parallel task is going to be a group of tasks that will run in parallel. In this case, we're going to start with a simple task. There we go. I'm going to just connect it here. And whenever we click the task, automatically we have this menu that gets open here on the right with the task configuration. So here we can specify a name to the task. I'm going to say example. We can also determine how much CPU and memory that task will require. So I know this task is very lightweight. It's going to require 1/4 of a CPU, and it's going to require 500 megabytes of memory. But I can also say, well, this task is very heavy. It's going to require, let's say, 16 vCPUs, and maybe I will need, like, again, gigabytes of memory, right? But well, let's just jump back. I need 1/4 of a CPU, 512 megabytes. The operating system that I'm going to be running, yeah, Linux, I'm okay with it, but we also support Windows here, Windows Server to be more specific. And then finally, we get to, and the system requires a Docker image. So whenever you follow this onboarding tutorial, it automatically also creates a repository where we can host the code that we, for our tasks, right? So our tasks, they are pretty much code that gets specced up in a Docker container. It can be done in any language, C#, Python, JavaScript, Java, whatever, you name it, C++. So basically, we write some code in any language. We package this code in a Docker container, in a Docker file, and automatically this Docker file gets built and pushed to our AWS account, aka to our workspace. So if I come here, so in this case here, I have three workers. I have a sample one, I have a video maker one that we're going to export in a second, a video publisher worker. If I click here on this dropdown, I'm going to be able to see all three of them here: the sample worker, the video maker, and the video publisher. Great. And again, we're going to understand exactly what's happening there. But for now, let's just select the sample worker. We can also choose between x86 or ARM. So let's keep ARM. It's generally cheaper. And I'm going to retain the logs for this specific task for this specific step for 1 day. But I can retain it for as many days as I wish. Now, Generally, whenever we're running any sort of task, we want to specify inputs and secrets to it. So you can think of inputs as environment variables that will be injected into your code, and secrets as well. So let's just add some inputs here. So test input 1, and I'm going to call this test input 2, and hello, Daniel, which is my name. And secrets, I'm going to call it secret value, and this is a secret. There we go. And now we have a workflow. It's going to start, and it's going to execute this task and provision this compute and run our Docker image for us, injecting those inputs and secrets. Let me just create this workflow now. There we have it. The workflow is created. I can see it down here. I can click on it. I can see details. Obviously, I cannot see secrets because, I mean, they are secrets, but I can see my inputs and all the other specs I've added. And finally, once we have a workflow, we can do either one of two things. The first one is execute this workflow immediately, or we can schedule an execution. So let's start by executing this workflow immediately to see what we get, right? So I'm going to run the workflow, and I'm going to run, and I can specify how many executions of this workflow, right? How many times I want to run this workflow right now. I just want to run it once, but I could run like 20 instances of this workflow if I wish. So let's just run it once and create an execution. Once I create an execution, automatically it gives me like a few pieces of information. So the execution just started right now at 10:27 a.m. And I have those two interesting links here. I have this state machine execution link and this assets link. So let's start by clicking on the state machine one. The state machine one automatically opens our AWS account, the one that is integrated with Sigtunnel, with a very specific role here that only gives access for us to see this execution. And over here, we can click on this blue box. We can click on ECS task, and we should be able to see the logs for our task. So I'm running the workflow. So this is the code that was associated with that Docker container. And it pretty much outputs, I'm running the workflow, and then the input is test input 2, test input 1, hello, and Daniel. So this matches exactly what we put on the interface a minute ago. And also we have our secrets. In this case, secret val is, this is a secret. And again, the secret value, whenever we create a workflow, it get automatically encrypted and decrypted appropriately only for the workflow execution to have access to it. We have no files that were uploaded or downloaded within this task, so that's why we have an empty array here. But we are uploading a file called test within the folder test, and it's called test.txt. So if we go back here to the workflow, it's succeeded. We should also be able to see that our pipeline is all green here. And we can also click on the assets link. So we know that our workflow actually uploaded a file, right? So where is this file? Well, if we click on the job output on the file system here, we're able to see that the test folder is here and the test file is here, and I can open it, and there you go. This is a test. So this is pretty powerful. I think this initial overview give you guys like an idea of how powerful this platform is. I basically can build Docker images and run them as I wish. Something else we can explore is the creation of schedules. So obviously we successfully just ran our job here on demand, but we can also come here and click on create schedule, and we can specify a schedule for this workflow. So I'm going to call this test description. This is a demo. And here I can determine, I can use a cron expression to determine when this job will run. So if you're not familiar with cron expressions that I feel like guide links here, but I have one cron expression that I have ready for this that pretty much will run this job, this workflow every minute. So I'm going to just specify that. In terms of time zone, I'm going to use EST, so New York time zone, and I can just click create. And there we have it. Now we have a schedule. In about a minute, we should see an execution popping up. So I'm going to pause right now and come back and show you guys the executions being kicked off automatically by the schedule. All right, and we're back. And as we can see here, we actually had one workflow execution that happened a minute ago that got triggered by the system. And we have one now that is just running. And pretty much every minute, this workflow will be triggered. And we can, again, click on the state machine, and we should be able to see more details about this job. More specifically, we should be able to navigate to the logs and see that, yeah, everything is working and running just fine. And we can click back here, and there we go. Like our second job just succeeded, and it will keep creating jobs every minute. So 10:45, 10:46, and we should have one at 10:47 being kicked off in a second. So there we go. There we go. So we have 10:44, 10:45, 10:46 is still running actually. So, but yeah, that gives you an idea that those jobs can be triggered automatically by leveraging schedules. And we can obviously click on a schedule, and we can disable a schedule. That way we don't have it running constantly, but we can also just delete a schedule. So in this case here, for this schedule specifically, I'm going to just wait for this to conclude. And yeah, it succeeded. So we got one at 10:45, one at 10:46, and one at 10:44. Now we have 2 pages of workflow executions here. But I'm going to go click on this guy and just delete it. And there we go. There you have it. And that should conclude our demo of the main functionalities of Sigtunnel. There's more to the platform in terms of the dashboard, some settings, but this gives like a good coverage of the bare bones of how everything works. Next up, we're going to cover this worker was pretty exciting, but we're going to cover a worker that actually runs an AI agent within it. So that hopefully that's going to be even more interesting.